You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode with Stacy Raske. Stacy is a best-selling author, speaker, podcast host, Iraq war veteran, peak performance coach, energy optimization expert, executive coach, leadership mentor, and business and systems strategist. She helps impact-driven leaders and organizations optimize and systematize to elevate their performance, people, and profit. She empowers alpha leaders and driven disruptors to embrace their inner rebel and leverage their genius to shatter the status quo. She's also the CEO of Influential Incorporated. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so much for having me on again. This is so fun.
Yeah, now Stacy and I know each other well. We've known each other a while. And so we know each other well. This is going to be a great fireside chat with Stacy. So Stacy, why don't you just share with everybody what I already know about you and what was your path from the Iraq war, which is fascinating, to entrepreneurship. Tell us how all this happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of funny because people, when they find out the backstory, they're like, okay, it's a little unusual to go from military leadership experience to kind of sidetracking over to corporate for a while and then eventually having that sort of wake up call, AKA rock bottom moment where it's finally stepping into my purpose and my truth of really being in that entrepreneur space. So kind of the 25 years or so of kind of all over the place, but it all worked to focus to this space. And I'm so glad, but it really was, my first kind of side hustle in a sense, I was 10 years old. So I think I've always had that entrepreneurial bug, but I spent the bulk of my lifetime wearing the mask of who I should be and just following that status quo, following the prescribed pathway. Obviously the military isn't necessarily always part of that, but after getting out, I got hurt in Iraq. I'm a disabled veteran. And they paid for me to go back to school. So I'm like right back on the same track of what it was beat into my head from early in childhood, get a degree, go get a corporate job. It's safe, it's reliable. And so I did that. And what was interesting was the 10 years following getting out of the military, even though I was following that prescribed path, it became my prison. And ultimately led to my rock bottom moment 10 years after I got out, which was interesting because it was truly that wake up call of I've built this life and it really is a prison. It's miserable being in this space. And it was that rejection of my truth and, who I am that I got lost in the sauce. And I just spent that 10 years basically self-medicating and self-soothing to get to that point, and basically was twice my body weight, was on all kinds of medications for all these health issues. My marriage was falling apart. I'd already lost that corporate career actually because of all the health issues. And really it was that quintessential rock bottom moment because I was like, what am I doing? This is not who I am. None of this is what I intended. But the gift in that moment was the realization of everything was the consequence of choices I made. And the flip side to that is because I created that life, I had the power to change it. And so from that moment, it was, I'm done trying to control anything other than myself. And so it's been this sort of rebuild journey from there. And that's what inspired starting my business.
Okay. Wow. So what I'm interested in is what made you want to go into the military in the first place?
That is an interesting one. So it's funny because there's a certain element of even early in my childhood, there was, I think, this knowing that at some point the military would be a part of my journey, but I didn't know when, and I didn't know how that would happen. And I think a lot of people would make the assumption that, hey, once I started having to couch surf on friends' couches in high school because I was homeless, they would think, oh, okay, as soon as I graduated high school, then I would join the military. But that's not what I did. I went to college for 2 years because, again, it was the should. And then I took a few years off and got to the place where I'm like, I'm 22 and yet I'm coasting. It's like, I am not going to be one of those peak in high school people. So it was just recognizing that there was a stagnance and sort of a lack of direction in my life, even that early. And so it was needing a big jump start. And the military, the nice thing about it is it creates this external sense of safety, stability, consistency, and structure that most of us who join the military are massively lacking.
Right.
So it was really my first introduction into, honestly, what it felt like to have stability, which is kind of crazy, but because I ended up deployed all the time.
Right. Stability, but I think it's more the structure, right? The structure of, exactly what you have to do because you have orders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you got out of that. You 10 years of really not finding your joy, but going to corporate, health, marriage on the rocks. And then the wake-up call, there must have been a day or overtime, because it's not always a defining moment. It's a lot of leading up to the realization, right? It's not always like one moment we wake up and I thought. So you got to that realization, and then what did you do when you're at your rock bottom moment? I think it's really important to hear how you acted at that moment.
No, very much. And mine was a kind of a bitch slap from spirit, like in a singular moment. Yeah, it was in a singularly defining moment. But it was really interesting because it was a complete identity shift in how I approached transformation. And I'd never done it that way before. I mean, obviously, joining the military is a very radical method of transformation to a certain degree. So I'm not afraid of doing big things. But what was really crazy is I was like, okay, all these things are going wrong in my life. So most people get overwhelmed and they shut down and they never make any changes. So I was like, all right, I'm done trying to control anything other than myself. So it really, from that perspective, simplified things. Because now I'm like, okay, well, I can only control me. So I'm changing something I'm doing with myself. And I didn't try to change all of it all at once. I was like, well, what is the easiest thing for me to focus on? Just one thing. And so I simplified it down to, I'm just going to start focusing on what I'm putting in my body, because it created the cascade. It started allowing me to build new habits and new behaviors off of that one change. And too many people, whether we're talking about business or life or whatever, they try to change everything all at once. And then it's just an epic failure.
Of course.
It's too much. And again, I am one of those all or nothing people. Like, that was my default. I'm going to do all of it.
I hear you.
But what was interesting was I also reframed the goal. So this is the other caveat to why I was actually successful in being able to follow through. Had I approached my goals in the same mindset I had before, I would have limited myself to a specific size or a specific weight on the scale when I decided to approach it from the perspective of my health, right? And instead, I was like, nope, I don't care what size I am. I just want to be healthy.
Good.
I want to get off my medication, right? So it was a big reframe from the prison of a number, right? Because all of us grow up, it's your IQ, it's your size, it's the speed, it's your GPA, all of these things are measured by a number. And this was the first time I was approaching goals from this experiential space.
A feeling. So how do I feel? Do I feel better?
Yeah.
Do I feel healthier?
Do I have the energy? Do I, and the process goal for me was I'm getting off my medications. So I still had something to track, right? So I'm still, it's still quantifiable. It's something I can still track, but it's no longer measuring myself in this negative connotation of a number, whether it's the amount in my bank account, right? Like my credit score, right? All these ways we measure and limit ourselves in a box. box. So when I removed the box, it gave me this freedom to approach this massive level of transformation with ease. So, Dan Sullivan talks about it in 10x is better than 2x, right? Or easier than 2x. This was one of those moments where I shifted from a 2x to a 10x mindset. The cool thing was it allowed me to lose well over 100 pounds in 10 months because it was easy and effortless because I wasn't focused on the scale. I wasn't focused on the size. And I was approaching this process very holistically with myself. And it wasn't the food piece. It wasn't exercise, but it was also doing the inner work along with it. And our body has a switch. You can flip it. And then it flipped and it just was like, nope, we're safe now, and let go of all the weight just quickly. And so we can allow these big changes to happen with ease when we approach it in the right frame of mind, with the right intention, the right clarity around it. It doesn't have to take forever.
Right. No, I love that because I share this story. I hit $1 million without realizing it. Okay. I was just doing the work. I wasn't saying, gee, I want to hit $1 million. I got online. I was doing the work, getting clients, helping people. And then I watched my numbers, but I guess I wasn't watching them that well because I was rowing, And one day I thought, gee, I wonder where I am. And I went and I looked and I had reached $1 million like a few months earlier. And I didn't even realize it. Like, I was like, wait, is that possible? And I realized it's because I wasn't focused on making $1 million. It wasn't my intention. My intention was to build my business, help people, and grow it. And then I was like, I can't believe this. But I get it when you're not like so focused on like this outcome. Of course, we need goals, and I do that. But it really taught me something, that when we're just doing the work, and you were just doing your process, right? Just doing your process, focusing on yourself, controlling what you can. And then you reached a point where it just dropped. And it's like, hey, now I'm a size 6 or 8 or whatever it is. I think you're a size 4 now, right?
Yeah, it was funny. Had I stopped, I would have gone from like an 18, 20 down to like a 10 or 12. I would have been happy there. But my body was like, nope, I want to be a 4, 6.
There you go. Okay. And you're a tall lady,
it was true. It was letting go of the outcomes, because at the end of the day, the outcomes outside of our control, right? For those of us in business, we know, like, we cannot control the money. We can only control the behaviors or the actions that lead to someone choosing to invest in working with you, but you can't make somebody pay you.
No,
it's out of your control.
The lead indicators. You were focusing on your lead indicators, and you were not focusing on the lag indicators, which is what we're supposed to do. And you applied that to your life, which I get it. I love it. I was thinking that. So basically, and this is what I teach, is lead indicators need to be focused on. And that's why that happened for me too. I was focused. I had shut it up and rowed, that saying, shut up and row. I had done that. I was like, okay, where am I? Okay, now something really interesting happened about a couple of years ago with you. I remember that. You decided to undo a surgery that you had, which to me, I saw that as a sort of a philosophical letting go as well of weight, right? Do you want to tell people about that?
Oh, about removing my implants?
Yes.
Yeah, it was interesting because it was like this big liberation, because when I chose to have my breast implants put in, I was in a very, very different space. And it was obviously before this big transformation. And so even like the mindset and the driver around the choice to get them came from, it was just a very different version of me. And so it was really interesting to get to that place finally at the end of 2020 to be able to get them removed, and how truly liberating it was to have a physical transformation that matched all of the inner work that I'd done over that 12. Well, I mean, it had been 12 years since I put them in, but just that, let's see, 2020. So 8 years that I've been doing that personal growth transformation. Yeah, it is. Sometimes there are, it is those external conditions that just reinforce the work that you're doing.
But it was interesting because I remember at the time there was just, I'm just letting go of these. It was like, this is just not this version of me, So that also was very powerful. That just you just let go of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you have this business and, you're helping people with all this stuff. So where are you now? Tell us what the version of Stacy is right now.
So it's interesting how, and obviously both of us being in the coaching mentoring space, right? How as we evolve as leaders and entrepreneurs, so does how we serve and support our community and our clients. And so as I continue to grow and evolve and really dialing into different variations around leadership development, but
Mm-hmm.
it's been focusing on performance optimization because I realized like at the core of everything that we were doing over time was how to get massively greater results in
Mm-hmm.
significantly less time. And then
Mm-hmm.
always going back and reviewing, what are my clients saying? And
Mm-hmm.
everything was this repeat of 10x, 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 10x,
Mm-hmm.
getting in 2 months, 10xing their income,
Mm-hmm.
or in 3 months, getting more work done than the previous 3 years. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like things like that. So it was recognizing it's a lot of this performance optimization. And the
Mm-hmm.
big variable for me is focusing on managing energy, not time. If we as entrepreneurs don't want to trade time for money, why manage that resource
Mm-hmm.
that you don't want to trade anymore? It doesn't make sense. But yet
Mm-hmm.
people are sitting here, high performing. I think almost every one of the high performing visionary entrepreneurs that I know have, the symptoms of ADD, ADHD, some type of neurodivergence. So time and energy management is a challenge, speaking
Mm-hmm.
from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, it has been how have I leaned into my journey of how can I always optimize my performance, get more with less effort,
Mm-hmm.
less energy, all
Mm-hmm.
of that, collaborate and work with teams, right? So now it's optimizing our teams as well to also improve performance and the
Mm-hmm.
organization as a whole. And so
Right.
it's systems for self, systems with your team,
Mm-hmm.
and then, of course, systems with your organization.
Right.
And so everything is just performance, 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 which is
Right.
nice.
And I must
And
say, you
so,
you are very disciplined. When you were telling me you're extreme, it's not that you're not disciplined. You're very disciplined about what time you get up, right? And the exercise you do. So it's not like you're just like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I want. You still have a lot of discipline, probably from the military. And, and I remember you were telling me you have SOPs for everything, like even packing
playbooks.
places.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yes. I
oh
have
my gosh,
playbooks
that's
for
a lot of
everything.
work. So
Well,
it's
it's
not
the
like,
systems, right? It's all
mm,
of those systems is where can I remove the
thought.
bandwidth that's being drained
Mm-hmm.
trying to remember things, and how many times are we like, oh shit, I said like 5 minutes after you leave the house, like
Yes.
totally forgot XYZ, right?
Right.
Why even do that? We don't
It was
need to.
interesting because I thought of you the other day. I went on a trip and I just, what I do the day before, I write down a list of everything and I put it on the counter, everything. And then as I'm leaving the door, I go through it all. Okay, that's my SOP. But I thought,
Mm-hmm.
I should just have an SOP on a computer that I have, instead of having to write it
Yep.
out every time. But every trip is a little different, I think, of what I need. So anyway, okay, so what is something that you can share that is your best tip, the best thing you found to help people be more efficient, do more in less time, flow? What's that one thing that you highly recommend that you do that is like the one thing that's the best?
The biggest thing that I do is I stopped managing my time and started managing my energy. So it's looking at doing the things that require the most effort when you have the most energy. Monday versus Friday,
Mm-hmm.
morning versus afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
and balancing out the things that drain your batteries, basically drain the energy, and the
Mm-hmm.
things that help you recover or fill your
Mm-hmm.
cup.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, doing the hard things in the morning when I have the most energy, especially cognitively, is the best. And then I pad my afternoon with the things that are easy and effortless and fill my batteries, like coaching my clients. It's really being mindful of that. And when you
Mm-hmm.
have this full cup that you're minding throughout the course of the week, your productivity is so much better,
Mm-hmm.
and really batching all of the tasks together that are similar. So
Right.
you and I, we own multiple businesses and we're doing multiple things. So I have an office only day. No
Mm.
peopling, no meetings, no
Mm.
clients, no team, no nothing. It is 100% focused. And
Mm-hmm.
that is my on the business's day. Because if
Right.
I'm doing operational for one, you can apply
Mm-hmm.
it other places. If you're
Right.
going through financials, you can do your personal too. You're already
Mm.
in that space.
True.
So you're not switching topics. It saves
Right.
energy, it saves calories,
It
makes
also
it so
saves
much more efficient.
saves that thing that they've proven that when you go from one thing to another, your brain takes, they don't know exactly the minutes. I've read many different versions of this.
20
But let's
minutes
just
to
say about
focus.
10 minutes. Let's say 10
Yeah.
minutes to switch. So the whole multitasking. Okay, so now it's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting because people have different times where they're more energetic. So
Yep.
for me, early morning is not my best time. But you're right, coaching people, I don't want to coach early in the morning either. I'm just generally not a morning person. Okay. So, however, I love interviewing people in the morning is so easy for me that we book in the morning. It's fine, you know? So we figured this out. But we have to be really careful that your rhythm won't be everybody else's rhythm. So it's really important for
Exactly.
people to watch when they have energy with what and what's draining them. Also, to delegate, like you said, I realized there were certain things that were not bringing me joy. So I hired a new person. She's doing them for me. And I'm like, it's just worth paying people, right? Just worth paying
Yes.
people. So we've also got to look at joy, like what brings us joy. And if we can pay somebody to do that, pay them, right? That's what I say. Okay. So
Exactly.
now let's help people a bit further. How can they identify where their energy lies and where they're optimizing which energy for which? Did you just
Mm-hmm.
observe, or did you say, okay, I'm going to watch each task for a week and see how my energy feels?
Oh, you don't even need to observe for that long. You can literally just look at your calendar. And so I do it as a grid. If you do like a really large plus sign,
Mm-hmm.
basically, you've got your center axis that's vertical, your center axis that's horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
Left to right is infrequent on the left, frequent on the right, and
Mm-hmm.
then at the top is recovery, at the bottom is drain. And you literally
Mm-hmm.
grid the things that you do. Are you doing it frequently, but then it's draining your batteries? If
Mm-hmm.
back-to-back Zooms drain you, but meeting somebody in person is a recovery item,
Mm.
maybe there are some of those meetings that you can move to in person, right? And so there's
Right.
less drain, or the things that you're doing that drain you a lot, rather than stacking them a ton back to back, give yourself some breaks, and
Mm.
you might find some of those recovery items that you're also infrequently doing, like
Mm-hmm.
going outside, walking in nature, just
Mm-hmm.
grounding, get up
Mm.
and walk around, whatever it is. And starting to look at mapping out your schedule for the week based on that chart.
Mm-hmm.
Where can you start adding in more things to recharge the battery and doing less of the things that drain you? Because, like you said, you don't know sometimes what you need to delegate till you realize, wait, I'll look at all this stuff that I'm doing, that I am doing it frequently. It
Mm.
drains me. It is not my genius.
Mm.
I don't want to do it. So that's where you either delegate it, automate it, or find an alternate variation.
Right. The other thing I've started doing is I've started buffing more in my day. I've realized that if I am more productive and I'm more energetic and I'm happier, actually, it's about happiness every day. To me, it's just about being happy. If I say, okay, we're just going to buff time where I can look outside, I can gaze at the bay, I can get a drink, I could walk down to the gym for 5 minutes, that helped a lot. But I can't buff too long because then my energy drops, because then I'm like not in work mode, So I have a very specific thing I have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I have found is sometimes when I just do a bunch of stuff all at once and batch it, and I don't care if it's like draining, I get the payoff later on of it being done and all like, it's done. So people have to watch their personalities too. But I love your grid. And then you do the plus, and then you just fill in those squares, those what's happening. Got it.
Yeah, it's looking at your calendar. What are all the things that you're doing? Because that gives
Mm.
you a good framework
Mm-hmm.
for the activities. Are they draining? Are they not? And
Mm.
then looking at the other things you like to do. What are the things that fill your cup and, recharge the batteries? It might be exercise is one of those recovery items. And
Mm.
if you do it daily, cool, it's frequent. But if
Mm.
maybe going out in nature, because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's easy to get into the hustle and grind of things. We don't get out enough, and that's
Mm.
infrequent, but it recharges your batteries,
Yeah.
making that part of maybe your daily break,
Right.
going
Right.
outside and just walking in the grass for 5
Right.
minutes.
I try to do that in the mornings.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, Stacy, this has been great. Tell me, what's something that you would like to share with people? What's something that you just want to share, you feel moved, some inspirational thing.
The biggest kind of final thought that I always love to reiterate, and I can never say this enough, is it's only as hard as you make it. When it comes to moving the needle forward and working towards your goals, whatever they are, personal, professional, relationships, inner work, it doesn't matter. It can be as easy and effortless as you choose when you're willing to look at who can you ask for help? What resources do you already have at your disposal, to allow it to be easier? But most people just jump right into action or execution, or maybe a little bit of planning, but the success formula is 50% thinking. And that's where we get to ask those questions. Who can help make this possible? What resources do I have? Before we go into the rest of the formula, which is 25% planning, 25% execution. So give yourself more thinking time to ask yourself, how can this be easier?
Right, but not overthinking, because I'm finding the overthinking is just
yes,
and keeping them stuck in the same rut. So that could be a really dangerous hole for some people, because they might think you mean overthinking. We don't mean that.
But that would be not asking those right questions. And that's why I'm very specific on those questions, because it's constructive thinking, not doubt monster.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to verify, because people will need to know that we are talking about exactly what you said.
Overthinking is a control issue. It is disempowered masculine energy for us to stay safe when we're going to step outside our comfort zone as a massive recovering overthinker.
Thank you. You just said that so succinctly. I'm glad you said that. Please listen to that over and over again, folks, because my thing is not overthinking. So I just wanted to make sure that people don't misinterpret that, because they could. Yeah. They could think, oh, great, all this thinking I'm doing is the right thing, Stacy. No, it's not. Stacy, you said that beautifully. Folks, listen to that again. What overthinking really is, because Stacy knows her stuff. Stacy, this has been great. Thank you for turning up. And if anybody wants to find out more about Stacy's work, we will have all of her links in the show notes. Please take a look. Follow her on social media. We'll have all those links. And thanks again, Stacy. And everybody have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Business Wealth Impact. I hope you found today's conversation insightful and life-changing. If you want to support the show and stay up to date with all of our latest episodes, the easiest way to do that is by following us on your favorite podcast platform. Just hit that follow button to never miss an episode. And if you really love the show and want to help us spread the word, leave us a review and share the podcast with your friends. Again, be sure to subscribe, and until next time, be impactful.